You are now in. Very good. Sorry about that. I forgot to put my microphone in. One of the most important things, Lisa. Put in the microphone. Nice. Well, good Sunday evening. Welcome to Online Talks with Lisa Cairns. Non-duality expressor. Yes. Tonight you're going to be non-duality expressed. Espresso non-duality. Yeah. So, if this is the first time that you've ever been on my live stream, what you might work out is, first of all, we don't ever start till about 6:15, even though it says 6 o'clock. There's always this nice music, so you can relax, you know, get into the vibe and the blue colours and the name Lisa Cairns. We'll be live soon, Lisa Cairns. And then we normally start about 6:15, and then I normally do silent sitting for 15 minutes, and then I start an introduction. And after the introduction, then you can ask questions on Skype. My Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. So it's Lisa Cairns 12. And you can either write in or you can call in. If you call in, please make sure you have a headset with a microphone so that it doesn't echo. And if you could also make sure you have good internet connection as well. Cool. Das ist good. Yeah. So I always like to do a bit of silent sitting. What does that mean, a bit of silent sitting? It means that you can either do a meditation practice that I'm going to teach, or you can just sit there and do nothing. Sweet F.A. That's Sweet Fanny Adams. I don't know why it's called that. I'm sure it's something rude, actually. I apologise already. You could also say sweet fuck all. I know that also is very rude to a lot of people. So I was trying to be polite by saying Sweet Fanny Adams. But you can just sit there and do nothing and just let your mind run wild, or sit quietly, whatever it wants to do. Think about things it hasn't thought about. Or you can try a meditation practice. But the meditation practice comes with a warning that even though you think that I'm prescribing and that you're doing, that is an illusion. There is a description of what can happen. So I'm going to describe what to do, and that might or might not be taken up by your body. But the idea of doership is your projection. It's not my projection. I'm not projecting onto you that you are a doer. Yes. So the first meditation is putting your attention in the I am. So you might not know what the I am is, and maybe this isn't the best time for me to try to describe what the I am is, but it's the sense of being. You could also say it's everything. A sense of being is everything. It might feel like the I am is inside your body, but when you begin to investigate it in greater depth, you find the I am is everywhere. So that's one practice. The other practice that you can do is counting your breath. So you count your breath in all the way to your hara, and that's 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And when you get to 10, you come back to 1 again. So you count your breath 10 times and then return to 1. So there's 2 exercises. You can put your attention in the I am, or you can bring your attention to the breath and count the breath. So I'm just going to ring a little bell now so we can do this for like 10-15 minutes. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, that's the end of the meditation. Thank you for joining me and sitting silently. So now we go to the introduction. Just let me open Skype. Pardon me. What was the title again? Really helps me. The title. When there is the shift in non-duality, how does it affect the person? What a boring title, Lisa. So first of all, let's establish what non-duality is. So if this is your first time on the talk, then I will explain to you in 1 minute what non-duality is. So humanity is hypnotized into stories. So we have a thinking mind, and this thinking mind tells us stories about life and about who we are. And then it creates a world in which we live in. It starts off small. So when you're young, the stories are small and simple. Me, dad, mum, mine. And then the stories get more and more complex. And we can imagine more and more things. And whatever stories we tell ourselves, so whatever we imagine, then becomes an energetic expression in the body. So if you imagine something horrible, then that manifests in your body. If you imagine yourself as stuck, then that manifests in the body. If you imagine yourself as a good person, then that manifests in the body. A better person, a right person. And it all plays. So it's like a film playing, and there's something that watches it. There's something that's experiencing it. But that something seems to become enmeshed in the story, and then it's believed that you are the story. That you are the person in the story. So it's like there is something watching the stories told about you and your life, and then the audience member, the one that's watching the film, dives in and then feels like that's who you truly are. Who you are is the stories formed in your head. And that combination of the ability to tell stories, the ability to navigate our experience through time and through thinking and through space, that creates a very successful, you could say, not hunter and gatherer, race. It's very successful at surviving, but it creates suffering because it first of all makes your stories deviate in strange ways. Like you can get lost in stories around shame or guilt or blame or hatred. And it believes things that aren't true. So it believes, first of all, that you are somebody sitting there listening to somebody sitting here. So that's the first misconception. And it believes that to be true rather than just a description that's happening in time of what seems to be happening, but is taken as fact. So that's one thing. The next thing that happens is that you believe that you're responsible for your life, responsible for your actions, responsible for what you do, what others do, how happy you are, how unhappy you are. And then it sort of creates all these like cobweb legs, or cobwebs in a way. No, not cobwebs, like spider legs, or octopus's legs, but like thousands of them that go into abstract storytelling, like stress about you and what you've got to do and your responsibility of life, your fear of death, your fear of life, your fear of others. So it becomes immense, the story of you. It becomes a heavy burden, which the Buddha described as suffering, and that's what I would also call suffering. So suffering is the identification with the person. And once the suffering's begun, so once there is the identification with the person, another layer starts called seeking. So then the person tries to undo itself and undo that discomfort of you through seeking things in time and through seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. And this is where it gets really complex, because our instruments are going to be conditioned. And our instruments, which I mean the body when I say our instruments, they're going to be conditioned, and they're going to be moving towards pleasure and avoiding pain. But seeking is like another dimension to that. It's like this agitation that you're never in the right place, you're never at home, you're always in the wrong place, and you always need to be somewhere else. It's like an agitation and a contraction. But just note that everything I say is only pointing to this subject. It's not actually truth either. Like, so my teaching is also a story which isn't fact, just like the story of you isn't fact. It's something that's going in time, which is trying to point to the timeless and never can. And it can't all be articulated correctly. So, and that's not just me. I'm not just going to fall on my own sword and be like, that's just me. I can't articulate it right. I see it in everything, in every teaching. And so I kind of like it that people that listen to me listen to other speakers as well, and that you get multiple inputs, and that you can hold that as well, that there's not a right teaching or a wrong teaching. Often we can't hold that. Often we have to have sameness, otherwise it creates chaos. We feel chaotic, we feel out of control, and it feels like maybe you lost something, or yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by some external sounds. So anyway, back to the point. So there's just some external sounds that are distracting me momentarily. My apology. It's hard, when most sounds I can block out, but that one's a little harder to block out. So just let me regain my focus. Who's focused, Lisa? Who is focusing? Who let the dogs out? Who? So I don't even know where I was. Got totally distracted. So just, sorry, I can't connect back to what I spoke about, so I just have to go for it again. Just jump in somewhere. So it's not like, oh yeah, I was saying about falling the sword. So it's not about me saying that that this message is wrong. It's that all messages can never capture this. You're never going to be able to get this in time. You're always going to fail. And I mean that really humbly. So if you go off on the bandwagon like, this is right, it won't last for long. Because there is no truth in time. There is the timeless, which is your only truth. It's what you truly are. And I like to really split this up now. Firstly, the difference between who you truly are and the human. Because the human does change when you have awakening. So it is going to change and it is going to transform. But the goal of awakening is not to become a perfect human. That's always what you've dreamt of, is becoming the perfect human, and that's not going to be what you get. That's your dream, that's your fantasy that has to be let go of. It really has to be let go of, because you're never going to make it. It's a seeking. So but there is this shift that can happen where there is this recognition of timelessness, and then the person is moving in that, and that stops the seeking in the person. So there's no longer the seeking to get things, but it doesn't stop the dynamics and the habits and the conditioning. So you could feel fear because one of your partners is really, or a friend of yours is really abusive to you. So you could have this recognition, be really spacious and free, but there could be fear about someone being abusive to you, and then there could be action taken by that, and then there could be like going to therapy and releasing that trauma. There could be reflecting on that trauma, reflecting on what led you to that trauma to recondition you. So it's not that. What we get into in this search, and what will be your biggest distraction, is actually trying to become the perfect person. So I say all of this because it to me is super important that we define these two different dynamics. The seeking will stop because you found home, but your body's still going to be conditioned, and your body's still going to have habits and conditionings of that seeking. So I can see with me there's old seeking patterns that come up, but that bundle of energy that's seeking inside of you stops. It's an energetic shift, it really is. And then what happens after you have this energetic shift is that it takes years, maybe lifetimes and lifetimes, for that energy to work itself out, because like as humanity, you're as progressive as your society. So you're as free as your society. You're free as your family system. Like a human isn't separate from that which it's living in. Like all of us have blood on our hands for so many things, all of us in our society, the things that we do. And we all have to wear that. We can say, oh, the government should change it, but we as a collective fight and vote for our governments mostly. I mean, most countries also don't do that, but it's still a manifestation of our current society. Even if you've got dictatorship, there's a manifestation there of that from that society. Otherwise there would be a rebellion about it, whether it's got a victim mentality or whatever it is that's happening. And even if people con you into things or whatever it is, we still have to own that we're all part of this society, this money system, and this money system really isn't fair. It really isn't okay what we do with trade and with animals, but it's what our current system is. And I think the greatest political activism that you can ever do is wake up, because this changes things energetically. Like when people have had this shift, you can feel their energy. There is an energetic difference in them. It doesn't always mean that their actions will be different, because they're going to be responding to their environment, and they're also going to have habits and conditions. So maybe sometimes they do shitty things, but energetically there's a shift there, which is the beginning point to changing society. So it's really important that you don't get into your mind that becoming a perfect person is waking up, because you'll be seeking forever. That isn't the same thing. What I do teach, though, is that often the person goes through a process of settling everything down for that realization to happen. So it goes through doing yoga training, breathing, chakra work, aura work, meditation, psychology, all these different things. But it's pardon me, but it's not sorry, another one. It's not the destination, because so I say that, and then so firstly, it's really important for me to clarify that for teaching purpose, in the sense of for you to not get fake or false ideas or false hopes, even though maybe you do hope that you change a lot. More than likely you will, because of all the settling down of the character, and the shift more than likely will change things as well. But it could make you more grumpy if you've been really repressed. So it might not be like you envisage it. So you've got that. Number one, the teaching. Number two, because teaching about the personality traits. And number three, because I personally want to have a clear conscience to make sure that everybody that listens to me knows that I am by and far a perfect person. So if you've got any guru tendencies or tendencies to project the perfect mother or the perfect father even onto me, the perfect lover, then I'm really not. But I make myself sound really bad. I think from what I've come from, I think I've done a really good job at shifting a lot of Lisa's karma, but I still make mistakes, can be rude to people, lose my temper, say inappropriate things, be reactive, be afraid, act out of fear. I don't tend to have hatred, ever, actually. Maybe that's one thing I can say, but that, who knows? But I don't tend to, I mean, who knows about that? Maybe there's some big well under there that I haven't released yet. It's like waiting, and I'm like, Rah! But I did have a lot of that in my shifts, but I don't tend to ever have hatred. I can have anger, but really not hatred towards people. I can have jealousy, all of these things. What else is there? Something that I did this morning where I said, yes, Lisa does. Oh yeah, I feed my partner's cheese to the dog, and he's asked me so many times not to do that. And that's so shitty that I do it. I can't, that's really like, it doesn't mean I'm not being passive aggressive to him, that I'm conscious of. It sounds like a passive aggressive action. it's more like she comes up to the fridge and she's so excited because she can smell cheese in there. And I give it to her. That sounded very dirty. Lisa, I give it to her. I give her the cheese, you know, and I can get hurt by comments that people make on YouTube, particularly if they're like very male aggressive. It frightens me sometimes. So, and I think it's also really, really healthy and important that a teacher continuously does that to break the projections of perfection. I think that you get into some very weird psychological games if people play the guru as if they on the human level have arrived at something. And I'm sure at points I have played that with people, and in the beginning, because that was the way I was trained in, like the guru thing. So, but over the years I've realized that game is a psychological dynamic that's unhealthy, and an energetic dynamic that's unhealthy, of like trying to get something from someone and someone sitting up there having something. So, because if you imagine it, so in day-to-day life, like I don't even really tell people that much if I'm feeling really happy inside, because it's like, imagine telling people that you had like $1 million. You just wouldn't do that. I'll say it if people ask, I feel good, or I say this, but, and it's, you know, it's not something to be talked about. It has to be talked about in this situation, because otherwise how can I teach? But I do feel good a lot of the time. Like energetically, I feel this spaciousness, but that to me is the connection to source. And on the human level, I have quite good feelings often, but that doesn't have to be the way if you have this awakening. You could have very dense, difficult human body. But there is this other part that's always free. So let's go back to non-duality again. So when I'm talking about all of this, most people are really identified with who they are or who the other is. And when it's really important to you who you are, then it's really important who the other is. Whereas you don't know who you are right here, right now. So the character is something that's appearing and disappearing, which is habits and conditions and stories. But it's so flexible and it's always changing. Your character changes the mood you're in, the people you're around, what you like, what you don't like, what you've done or what you haven't done, or what you're doing. If you have confidence, your character is always changing. When you're being sexual, funny, all those different types of things. So it's something that's in flow, but it's got patterns. So all of us have patterns of ways of being. But the society is so eager to believe that's me, and I've got to be good. I've got to be better than. I mustn't be shameful. I mustn't let my family down. I mustn't let people down. I've got to be something. And there's so much focus on that and seeking on that. And then there is this narrow contraction of consciousness in the I am. So it feels like that consciousness and I am is locked into that body. Whereas who you are is absolute spaciousness. This immense spaciousness, right here, right now, that's timeless, that cares about nothing. It doesn't reject or accept. And then there's this I am, or this love to it. And none of it rejects or accepts anything. It just is. It's just there. You could call it acceptance, like it's embracing everything, but it's not really an act of acceptance. It's just there. What you are now is just here. It doesn't have any judgment. If you've done good things, it doesn't think, wow, what a good person. like goodness is godliness or something. It doesn't think that. And if you're a bad person, which is so beautiful, I know it might be annoying to people that have done all these good things and think they're closer to something, but it really doesn't accept or reject anybody more. Its arms are held out. And it's really not getting lost in this idea that you have to be better than what you are. That you shouldn't be shameful, that you shouldn't be bad, that you have to be something more. There's nothing more you have to be from consciousness's perspective. The human can evolve, that's what it does. It can get better at things, it can become nicer and more expanded and kinder. But consciousness is never affected. Let's make sure that this is still going. Could be that it stops. It's still here. You still have the audio. Very good. So consciousness never rejects anything. And consciousness isn't a thing. So when you really go into the depth of it, consciousness is everything. You could even say there is no consciousness, there is just nothing that is everything. And everything which is nothing. And the same with the I am. Like I use the I am now because after years and years of teaching, like that's what people are used to, but the I am doesn't really exist. And the consciousness, they're not really separate things. It is no thing and everything. It's this beingness, this aliveness, this presence. So waking up is an energetic shift from being contracted to not being contracted. And this may or may not shift the person. More than likely will change the person, but it's certainly going to not make it perfect. Because what is perfect and what is right and wrong? I really feel the way in which we think right is, and we think that society should be, and we think what fairness is, I really don't think it is. I think there's so much more happening that we can't perceive. So many more energies and dynamics happening. Nice. But we now take some questions after I've been blinded by the light. Maybe I can just turn it down a little. Maybe a bit bright there. Hi Annalise. Hi Lisa. Is there still interest in human stories? Do you still like to hear about personal things like asking how your day was or somebody asking you about your day and life? Hey Annalise, nice to hear from you. Yeah, sure. I think that's very personality based. So I don't think that's dependent on awakening, and I think it will be different for everyone. So yeah, sure, there's still interest in those types of things. It's so interesting what the mind comes up with. You might not be interested in people anymore at all. It could be for you though, Annalise, that in the shift, the interest in other people disappears. It's so unique to each person. It's so humbling. And then you might find it changes. So for a period, there's no interest, and then interest comes back. There's really not a marking placed on the human level to say, I am enlightened. Like I could imagine somebody that's enlightened or free stealing. I'm not sure if they were hungry or needed to feed their family, this coronavirus, or bankrupt. I can imagine that. I don't think they could do something out of hatred. That's the one thing. I'm not sure if that could happen, but maybe. It's not what appears here, but yeah. Or doing things out of anger. It's really not like we think it is. What the person daydreams of, what the person is looking for, is to become the perfect person. Because if you become the perfect person, then everybody will love you, and then you believe that you'll arrive home, but that won't arrive you home. It will make you a closed off person, because if you come to become a perfect person, you can't relate to people anymore. Nice. Thanks for your question, Annalise, and nice to hear from you. Hi, Dennis. Hi, Lisa. My God, this light is bright. Something about the angle and like reading down there that's hard. I need to put my spectacles on. Can you talk about how the sense of time changes in full on awareness? For example, when a day seems like 1,000 years. Much love, Dennis, Old Kentucky. Yeah, time is mind-made. So I don't know if you've ever noticed, like, so when I used to travel a lot more, if I traveled to a couple of cities in like 2 weeks, or a week even, then it felt like time was really, really long. And if I did the same thing day in, day out for a period, time felt very short. And I concluded it was because of the way my memory was remembering things. So when it has lots of things to remember, it feels like a longer period of time. And when it has less things to remember, like it's doing the same thing every day, it feels like a shorter period of time. So we really can't gauge time. Like you can intuitively gauge time in a way, but we can't really on the intellectual level. Like I always seem to, when I was younger, I used to always seem to pull my clock closer or my alarm closer just before it was going to go off. Those types of things. So you can sometimes detect time, but time is really elusive. And even in science, when they look at time, it's not a fixed thing. So the faster we go, I think, the slower time becomes. That's really weird. So our perspective of reality, of what reality is, really doesn't match up with what our science suggests. Like science just can't really, things make sense to an extent and then they stop making sense. But I'm sorry for those scientists listening. I seem to encourage or attract lots of scientists, and then I bastardize science. Hi, Giunatu. Hi, Lisa. I want to call, but I'd be scared of it, but would be nice for 1 or 2 minutes to see how it goes. Sure. I just have to go and find my headset. I did thought I brought it in, but I obviously didn't. Ein Moment. Put it somewhere. I think it fucks it all up. It just can't cope. Put it in back. Okay, I'm back with the headset, and I went for a pee, a break as well. Oh, balls. Just had to tell you that. Okay, so let's go. Complicated name for an English speaker. I don't know how to say that name. Gianato. Let's see. Okay, you can call now, Janitor. Oh, I'm not going to call. Okay. So this is from Annalise. Thanks. It's more that I was wondering that when you see that your thoughts are not true, then the interest in the stories are not true, so the interest falls away. It is not for me. My interest is still there, like always. Nice to talk to you, Lisa. Yeah, most probably. They fall away to an extent, but I think it's really different for everybody. I've never been great at really engaging in long depth storytelling with other people. So it's never been a thing for me, so it's not something I really enjoy now. I like it to an extent, but I wouldn't like to sit and talk about boyfriends or partners for 2 hours with someone or something like this, or yeah. But we don't know what it will be like. Hi, Rob. So Rob is going to call. Hey, Rob.
Good morning, Lisa. And
Good
everybody.
morning.
The sun hasn't come up yet here in New Zealand. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you good. What time is it there?
It's nearly 6:30
Oh,
a.m.
wow. Oh, that's a really nice time of the day, just before
Yeah, it
everything
is.
comes up.
I've got my two kids just about to wake up and get ready for school, so I
Yeah,
just thought I'd give it a crack. So if I have to go, uh-oh, halfway through,
yeah,
I hope you understand. Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for all your for coming back from wherever you were and doing these talks again.
Yeah, with pleasure.
Yeah, I've been listening to the Tao Te Ching. I don't know
Oh,
if that's the
nice.
right pronunciation. Yeah, there's a wonderful YouTube sort of, and my personal situation is bringing me back very much into the just sort of giving everything up.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and you touched on it with the time thing. It's like I feel like, yeah, I just don't know. Time gets in the way. I don't know how to put that really.
Yeah, it's
So,
such a,
for
it's
example,
such a bizarre thing, time.
yeah, it
But
brings
please,
like pressure, you know,
yeah, totally.
and I sort of don't want to scare my children if I just give up time or
Yeah,
just stop being a functioning human.
yeah,
You know, I've feel that I feel that freedom or the resting in the true self, I just say it like that, requires. Uh, I still feel it like it requires a lot of time and effort and energy because some people I've listened to, um, and yourself, I imagine, I just know how much time you've spent.
mm,
You know, and everyone and a lot of people who say you can just stay in that place of peace and
mm,
serenity. They've all done like years and years and years of really intense
mm.
work. Yeah. So I guess I'm just an acceptance that I can't do a spiritual practice like that. Yeah.
Mm.
And that's pertinent. Yeah.
Yeah. You can also have like an intention to every moment being a spiritual practice. Like from our personal conversations in the past, I feel like life is giving you like your spiritual practice every day. With all the different things that are going on in your life, like a meeting it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think yeah, I'm getting lots of, yeah, actually, I'm getting lots of opportunity.
Mm. Even that's a beautiful way to
Yeah, it
phrase it,
is
like a
beautiful.
positive way to phrase it. But it can also be, um, there can also be like it's not beautiful or not beautiful. It's not anything. It's just as it is right now.
Mm.
This vast space, and in this vastness, there is no your life and your problems and your responsibility. There is this vastness that's expansive. It's like light pouring out. It's like the secret portal to life. And it comes from no place, and it is all things. And there is a surrender that seems to happen in the human, like this real surrender that you can't make your life work. But even that's a story if you hold on to it. Like it's not even that, it's just this moment.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I see that. Morning. You can hop up, darling, sit on the couch. I'll just be finished. Mm. Thank you, Lisa.
My pleasure. It's lovely to speak with you, Rob.
Yes, so lovely to speak with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, lots of love.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Hi Lisa, is your voice... Oh, okay. Hi Lisa, I have a question, if that's possible for you to answer, please. You earlier said if we believe in this, it would expand and it will happen in personal life. But why, when we believe that we want to wake up, it's not working that way and it only gets worse? I don't remember saying that about the belief thing. I wonder if you've misunderstood slightly what I was saying, like it maybe taken it out of context. I think I've said in the past, you always get what you want. So if there is a want for this, they're not as necessarily seeking, but like if there is desire for this, then that's the way the body will move. Yeah, and I don't know why things are getting worse for you. These are very complex questions that maybe we would have to explore in private. I wish I could offer you, time after this talk or during the week, but I don't have time to offer you. I'm sorry. Yeah, currently at the moment, I can only speak energetically with a certain amount of people. It's very energetical, what I do. Even though it's like all verbal, I feel like it's energetical, and there's only so much I can do per week before it makes me physically ill. So I have to limit that very carefully. Yeah. So I think that's something we'd have to discuss in private. Hey Derek. Hello Lisa. When an intimate relationship ends, after a while you become aware that there were signs which you hadn't noticed. So when the energetic shift has happened, is the character aware of the energetic clues which happened before? No. You can endlessly become more conscious of the character. So if relationships or friendships end, or relationships with my family, and I've noticed continuously more and more depth to it. So for sure not. No. Like the unconscious is like I think they say like our actions are 95% unconscious or something, and it's so immense because when the unconscious isn't yours, the unconscious is like the unconscious of humanity in your family system. So whatever your unconscious is it could be that 10 generations ago your gran and grandpa were murdered, And that will be in your unconscious. Like, that's karma, that's past lives. I mean, it might not even work like that. I just say it like that because that's what logically makes sense to me. But it's also humanity. You know, we have World War II in us, World War One in us. We have famines in the last 1,000 years that happened across the world. And I mean, they've always happened, but I think they happen more so when we lived in bigger communities. So yeah, we've got all the wheat that we picked for many years being bent over in our unconscious. We've got the slave trade in our unconscious. We've got and it goes further and further back, because like humans evolved from apes, and then apes evolved from God knows what. But it goes on our line, and that's all in the unconscious. Isn't that amazing? Like, we always take things so personally. Everybody's action is happening from the divine. It's not happening from a person. And we really take it, it's like our unconscious, and we've got to figure it out. So everybody's working unconsciously to an extent. So like the way that I speak and all my mannerisms come from the unconscious, you can endlessly analyze it. Like if you notice the way I speak, like my characteristics, there's also this other speaking that's happening that feels like it comes from no place. But then on the human level, the characteristics, like I have a childlikeness, and you could put that down to the unconscious. You could also put it down to the awakening as well, but you could put it down to the unconscious, and my relationship with my mum, my dad, her relationship with her mum, her dad, on it goes, on it goes. So yeah, and there's always, whenever you are in relationship with anybody, there's always going to be dynamics happening, and there's not one that's better than the other. They're just dynamics. It could be there's one that's more functional, but the fact that you're interacting with someone with these dynamics or with these red flags is because there's something in your unconscious that's attracted to it. So this goes on endlessly, and I don't ever expect to have worked Lisa out by the time I die. Like, Lisa is an enigma that is so completely complex. I've not found the source code for her. Like, what is Lisa's programming? It's always a surprise. She seems to have certain patterns that I can realize. So yeah. So the same goes for you. So your dynamics, Derek, there's so much that you'll be unconscious of. We like to play as if we know everything, but we really don't. I've got to the end of my unconscious. I'm more conscious than the person next to me. Then why are you socializing with that person? I'm not saying that you shouldn't socialize with them if you're more conscious, but there's something in you that's attracted them that's in your unconscious. Why is that in your family? Like, why are you interacting with that? The mind always wants to take hierarchy. But then at the same time, notice that all these mind things, it's back and forward, and my reply, that's not truth. That's not what you're really looking for. So I'm answering your questions. I'm engaging in the questions, which is fine. But what you're really looking for is this moment. You're not looking for the end of your unconscious. That's like an endless thread. It's like the whole universe is thread. It's like a jumper, like as big as this universe, trying to find your unconscious. You'll endlessly seek to get to that. But what you really look for is this moment, this vastness. And the key to it is a surrender, but it's nobody's surrender. So it might seem like it's your surrender at times, like the person gives up more and more what it believes will bring it happiness, what it believes will fulfill it, what stories it needs to hold on to. And there is a surrender of all that. All these things that you think you have to be and you need to be and you want to be is dissolved. And what you're left with is what is. There's nothing you need to be. Just what you are, which is this. And then the rest will happen. Your personality will become more integrated. through time, or it won't. It'll be a disaster and cause yourself lots of problems, and that's okay too. Thanks for your question, Derek. Hi, Andre. Thank you for your talks. Is the waking up and the being happy also just a story? And is this also the case with the energetic shift, that it's just another story? Everything is stories. So yes, of course, it's stories. But what happens when you give up all stories? What is this wordless place where there's just this presence, this immense intimacy with what's happening? So yes, non-duality is a story, freedom is a story, waking up, energetic shift is a story. And that's something we describe in time. And then what else is there that's right here that isn't a story? And that is everything. Everything. Hi, Eric. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for all you do to help free us from the suffering of the ego, but I'm struggling balancing non-duality and my ambitions. I can't grasp the idea of letting go of my goals, but also can't justify having them through non-duality. How do you see having financial ambition through non-duality? Ambition is simply ambition. That's something that arises in the human world, and there's nothing wrong with the want to get money, the movement towards pleasure and security and safety. I mean, that's what it represents. It's just that you won't find freedom in that, and that's the illusion. So that's the dynamic that plays in the humans, and most people have this. They want to get money because they want to be safe and secure and feel comfortable in their life, and that's one dynamic. But the illusion is that that will then end suffering. So when you're really attached to that, it normally means that you're seeking through money. So it's not the actual end of ambition and the end of that movement, it's the end of the attachment to it. There's nothing wrong with the pursuit of money. It's just stories, which is fine. But then what is here? What is here? We could explore that. So if we had a one-to-one session, I don't want to do it online because it's very exposing for people. But you could explore if it's just a natural momentum that comes from money, or if it's a seeking, like this big seeking, like if you don't have it, your life will be worthless and pointless and hopeless and unsafe and insecure. And if you believe that when you get it, the game's going to be finished. And then you could see what your parents thought of money, what your family line thought of money, and all of that, the awareness of it tends to relax it. So once you see the game, the mechanism, it tends to relax that seeking, if there is seeking energy there. And the whole time, in all of that investigation, who you are is here. What you are is here, free, present. The mind is like, should I, shouldn't I, should I give it up, shouldn't I give it up? What if, what not, what if, what not? And here we are in this. Hey, Nick. Hi Santosh. Hi Santosh, nice to hear from you. Hi Lisa. Stories we tell ourselves create the character person. If so, what identifies with the character? It's like an energy. So you've got the character, and then you've got like beingness and consciousness and who you are, which is everything. And then when there's identification, it's like this. And then it sort of goes and swaps over. So the person goes into the background, and then who you are is that consciousness. So you're at home. But the character still has its dynamics. If it was taught that it has to get money and be a dentist, then maybe that's what it will still carry on doing. If it has responsibility, has goals. But it's in the background. There's something that appears and disappears, whereas what's permanent is who you are, which is consciousness. Hi Thomas. Hey Isabel. I love you too. Sorry I haven't replied to Isabel to your text. I've just been busy the last couple of days, and I've thought of something, and I just need a few minutes to write it out to you. Do, 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 do. I thought of something. Aloha, Carmela. Hello, love and gratitude to you, Lisa. Love and gratitude to you as well, Carmela. Violet. Wow, I didn't know you could do that on Skype. That looks really nice, Violet. Violet, like the way that you've written it. So if anyone else has any questions, you're welcome to write them. There is no questions in there at the moment. Do you believe in the law of attraction? I will just answer this before I answer that. Hey Dennis. Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
How's it going?
Yeah, good, thank you. Guys, quite in time. The Skype and the live stream. Sometimes it's really behind, but that's quite in time.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah. How are you this afternoon?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I really liked your introduction. You know,
Nice.
it seems like you're one of the few that talks about both, and I liked your perspective on the the human part is always developing and it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah. I've told this story so many times when me and my partner were in India, and we were sitting on a rock, and this sadhu came up, and he was like saying all these different things. And one thing he said that she stuck in my mind was, he said, knowledge is infinite. And of course knowledge is infinite, but I just never thought about that before. And that's the same with everything. Like everything is continuously expanding. Like in one way it's circular, but then in another way it expands. It's like a spiral, I suppose. That's a lot of what the images, spiritual images, are, these spirals of going up to enlightenment. And I feel like it becomes a little bit dangerous when you sell something, not saying that I'm selling something or that other people are selling something, but you sell something as in you put that argument across that it will produce in some way a perfect person. Like, I think that leads into all types of problems and troubles, and it creates like endless seeking, because that's never going to happen. Because if you imagine like writing a script, like what would a perfect person be? Would they be like a constant giver? And that's like always giving and always giving into everybody else's will. Like, that's certainly not balanced. Would they be would they be somebody that's like always not giving, like always saying, no, this is your dynamic, so somebody that's always taking? Like, what would it look like, a perfect person? Like it's
Yeah. And I think that's our one of our big misconceptions, is that we're going to get all this blissful state and everything's perfect.
It's like a religion that we believe in. There is something that can happen when you realize home, and there's this like energetic shift, this remembering, and that's really what non-duality is about. And that sounds like a big, massive carrot to people, because really it's just what's here. So it's right now. It's like this moment. It's no longer believing or being attached to that timeline-bound entity, and it's this like deep immersion into what's happening right now. So it's like all your problems, or your time, or your relationship problems, or your great things and what you're going to get, all of it disappears, and there's just an immense presence with what is. Like, this is all there is. Like, this is who you are, and this is what's important, and this is your home. This is what's always been your home. It's all you've ever had, and you looked for safety and security in timeline, but this has been your safety and security. It's what you are. It's never left.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess not for you, or it was, but just so confusing. Just so confusing, being like two different things, kind of, you know?
Yeah, it feels a little bit schizophrenic at point, because you like, there's like
There you
a
go.
moment of like immense intimacy where everything's like blissful and wonderful, and then it's like, there is a problem.
Yeah,
Like,
schizophrenic.
so,
That's
yeah,
perfect.
like it can get a bit like flip flopping.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's here, even in your flip flopping. So even when you feel the hell, or your mind is lost in difficulties, this moment never leaves you. It doesn't abandon you. Everything else will leave, but this moment never abandons. So your characteristics, your behavior will leave, your problems will leave, your friends, your relationships, they'll all come and go, but this moment won't come and go. It will be there in your last moment, and it was there in your first moment. So it'll
So
be there in your dying breath and in your waking breath, but really it's there prior to that as well, but that doesn't matter.
yeah. So is it the mind that's deathly afraid of the being present now concept?
I suppose so. We say the mind, or people say all different things. I slip from words to words. It's like an attachment to the thinking, and then the belief that you are found in thinking, and that your home, and that your security, and that your worth is found in thinking and in
Yeah.
time. Whereas what your worth is right now. Your worth is in this moment. Your love is in this moment. Your security is in this moment. But not on the human level. It doesn't mean don't go to work. It's beyond human.
Yeah. I know. I really liked it. So I remember reading Yogananda, and he's talking about how it's almost cruel that God puts us in this delusional state, you know?
Yeah.
And that made a lot of sense to me. That kind of hit home
Yeah.
for me. It probably does for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like driving the other day and was able to separate, and it was really nice. And all the stuff was flowing, like the thoughts and the feelings. And
Yeah.
so that was a really nice, however long it lasted.
Yeah.
But I do, I so much love your perspective and your, your personality. You're just out there. And I try to do that. I try to be that too, just out there, just a lot of vulnerability, and this is who I am, and for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that reflection. It's
Oh,
always
yeah.
interesting when people reflect back to you, because sometimes you don't see yourself, like you don't like see what your character's being like or not being like, or being perceived.
Oh, yeah. Well, you just, it's enjoyable because you're so open. And it's like, because we generally sense when someone's full of it and they're
Yeah.
on a big scenario. And
Although sometimes I really think that humans can't. Like sometimes I watch like people that are very famous, not necessarily non-duality talks, the speakers, but like sometimes in the spiritual world, and I listen to speakers, and to to me when I listen, I feel like everything is like an extension of themselves, and then it amazes me that that's not seen like that. So I think it's also humans are amazingly deceived by this idea of conviction, like when somebody is very, this is the way it is, and
uh,
you will like five, like I sometimes see these advertisements for like some healing session. It's like if you pay $99, like I think I get it like on my feed sometimes, $99, then you'll do this, do this, do this, and it will lead to this. Da, 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 and you hear them speaking, and it sounds really like yeah, like an extension of them or something.
yeah, like they're full of it, you mean, or what?
Yeah, I suppose so. Like
Yeah,
not full. I don't know what that means. Full of it, like
full of shit. Like,
full of shit.
that's,
Full
you
of
didn't.
shit.
Yeah,
It
just,
just sounds like it's very. I don't know if it's like full of shit, because I don't think that they would feel that it's full of shit. It's just very like they are getting like there is lots of seeking, and they're getting lots of pleasure from being that way.
yeah.
And then that's validating their sense of self. But I don't know if they necessarily realize they're full of shit. Most of the time, even when myself, I'm sure I'm full of shit at points, but when you do it, you don't really realize you're doing it. Like you sometimes get con people that are really like boop, 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 and putting it out there and know that they're conning. But most of the time, when we're full of shit, we don't really realize it. We then
So
get humbled. We then fall over, and then we're like, oh, sorry,
oh
I was full of shit, and it's all come out. I realize now I'm in a mess.
yeah. So do you find yourself still seeking?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I
Okay.
think I have like old seeking patterns that come up,
Yeah.
like um, but I don't know how you would tell.
Huh. Yeah, maybe, huh?
I know that sounds weird.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. Because we're so blinded by
Yeah,
stuff, and
yeah,
it comes to light and like, wow, no way,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That hurts.
yeah, yeah.
That's so painful, you know. Yeah. So so did you do like the big deal?
Yeah, yeah, but best not to talk about that online. I did talk about it one time online, but
Oh, did
yeah,
you?
yeah, it's best not to. But
Yeah.
thanks for asking. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I figured that's probably what it was. And I don't blame you.
yeah,
And I love how in your talks you talked about you had to like learn how to be more masculine as time went on. I think that's
Yeah,
so cool, to hear that.
yeah, yeah,
To be
yeah,
stronger, like to fend off idiocy and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, congratulations on
yeah,
on something.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how you been doing? Like, good?
Yes. I mean, that's sort of abstract in the middle of a non-dual talk. You can suddenly go back into speaking about the human. It's been
Yeah.
so much like hammering on the non-dual stuff, and the brain's like, what have you been doing today? Yeah.
Uh, cool.
Nice.
Oh man. Well, so I guess I'm gonna talk to you in a couple weeks. So I'm set
Oh,
up for
nice.
the 24th.
Oh, great. Oh, good. I look forward to speaking to you then.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Me
Yeah, thank
too.
you for calling in and the questions. Enjoyed speaking with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Yeah.
talking. Thanks for your insight, everything that you do.
Oh, thanks, Dennis.
Yeah. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for this streaming again, talking about choices. Would you tell us about intuition? I, in a moment, I am in a moment where I am intuitively feeling that I should go in a certain direction in my life. However, for many reasons, I'm afraid of actually doing it. What I mean by intuitively feeling is that I do not see a real reason beyond feeling very attracted to that direction. I've recently heard about intuition and would love to hear your thoughts about it. I think the wise thing to do is to generally go towards that which makes you feel expanded. I'm so sorry. That is just so rude. That just popped out. What does that mean? That was a load of rubbish, Lisa. That was a load of gas. You're full of shit. So generally, what I think intuition is that you go towards that which makes you feel expanded. So rather than going towards that which makes you feel fear or negativity, so if you're going, like, I feel like the better way is to go towards that which expands you. And that to me is what intuition would be. I don't know if that's what other people would define intuition as. But remember, when I say that, like, who is choosing? So we're so convinced that there is an I that's choosing intuition. But who is this I that's choosing intuition? Who is this I? So the assumption always is that I'm intuitively going over here, or I'm intuitively going over here, or I'm not using my intuition. But there isn't actually someone that uses it or doesn't use it. What can happen is that your dynamics, your character, can become more in line with moving towards which is expansive. But that's not who you truly are. That's not what's listening now. That's not what's looking now. That's not what's hearing now. That's a happening. That is a happening. That's appearing. It's not actually somebody that's doing something independently of everything else. When you believe that you are the person and that you are choosing and that you are doing things, then you'll suffer. Thank you for your question. Maria from Canada, I feel that no attachment is hard for personality. I admire that in you as you answer your questions in such profound depth. Then no attachment. Then no attachment can move on, so you get so much out life. Yeah, I did think that's a question, but such profound depth. Yeah, I think what you're trying to say, I'm not 100% sure, but that that you, like when there isn't attachment, then you can be in the flow more. So we all have a flow, a way of being, I feel. And when there is really strong attachment to, or when there is identification with the person, then that flow can't happen so much. The person gets in the way. Thank you for your question, Maria. Hi, Violet. Here, you can do this too. Fancy text grammar. And one more thing. Oh, nice. Thanks, Violet. Okay, so this is the last question from Keith. No, KH. But we all suffer from our stories. It's not just me. I guess everybody who listens to you must have been suffer enough to look up for waking up. Yeah. 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 I don't think that was a question, just a comment. Yeah, people can really suffer from stories and being identified with them. Who you are is not a story. You're not bound to an idea. You're not bound to a particular space. You're not bound to your actions or to what's good or bad. And your freedom doesn't come from that. Your freedom doesn't come from accomplishing something. It's right here. Nice. Okay, guys. Das ist all. Das ist alles, not all. That is the end for this evening. Looking up here, not at the computer. So, goodbye. I shall see you next Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. I wish you all a beautiful week, and yes, if you would like to see edited clips of my talks, then there's a channel called Lisa Cairns video clips, and you can log on to that, because I know some of my live streams are a bit chaotic sometimes and I don't start for ages. So it's called Lisa Cairns video clips. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.